Hello children, how are you doing? I'm sure you're learning all parts of speech day by day and strengthening your learning. Today we are going to learn a very important aspect of verbs, that is transitive and intransitive verbs. Let's observe the given sentences here. The birds fly in the sky. First sentence. Question. The birds fly where? We don't know. The sentence is not telling us. हमें नहीं पता चल रहा है. हमें एक्शन तो समझ आ रहा है, लेकिन ये नहीं पता चल रहा है कि birds कहाँ उड़ रही हैं. Whereas in the second sentence, the birds fly in the sky. So when we question where, we come to know in the sky. We don't know, but here we know. So, in the sky is the object of the verb fly. Let's learn the verbs with the subjects and without the subjects. Let's study transitive verb. Transitive verb indicates the transfer of the action from the subject to the object. A transitive verb cannot be used in a sentence without an object. Transitive verb here. So there has to be an object and it cannot be used without it. Let's study the examples. I baked a cake. Now what is the subject here, children? आपने सही पहचाना. I, because I is doing the action. I is the subject. And what is receiving the action? Cake. Hence, it's the object. In the first sentence, the action of baking is transferred to the object, that is the cake. And in the second sentence, I rode a bicycle. The action of riding is transferred to the object, the bicycle. तो जैसे हमने अभी पढ़ा था, इस तरह के सेंटेंस में ऑब्जेक्ट होना बहुत ही ज़रूरी है. Here, cake is the object and bicycle is the object. The second type, which is almost the opposite, is called intransitive verb. Intransitive verb. Intransitive verb does not indicate the transfer of the action to the object. To indicate an action by using an intransitive verb, the object is not needed in a sentence. So, our focus would be, it is not needed. We don't need an object. So, both are literally opposite. Let's understand it properly through these examples. The book fell. I laughed. In a sentence, the subject and the verb may be followed by an object. An object is a noun or pronoun that gives meaning to the subject and the verb of the sentence. So, here to understand these verbs, you have to remember what is an object. Let's understand it properly. For example, my father drives a pink colored car. What is the subject here? My father. The verb drives, and what is the object? A pink colored car, because it is receiving the action. So this is the object here. It's receiving. There are two kinds of objects within a sentence. Direct object and indirect object. So objects are further divided into two types. Let's see these examples. I sent some sweets to Shalini. Who is the doer here? Who is doing all the action? I. So, we call it a subject. Sent, the verb, because it's an action. Some sweets, direct object. It is receiving directly. To Shalini. So, that's the indirect receiver. जो directly receive नहीं कर रहा है. So, there are two objects here. This one is receiving the action directly and this one indirectly. I sent Shalini some sweets. I again subject, sent verb. Shalini now an indirect object and some sweets direct object. So the sequence might be little different, but you have to focus on each part of the sentence. Let's read further about these types of objects. Direct and indirect object. A direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action of a verb. It answers the question, what and whom. So it receives the action, and this question is important. What and whom? For example, I sent some sweets. I sent what? Some sweets. जब आप ये सवाल करेंगे तो आपको एक जवाब मिलेगा क्योंकि यहाँ एक ऑब्जेक्ट है. Similarly, Harsh repairs bicycles for the neighborhood children. Harsh repairs what? Bicycles. In these sentences, some sweets and bicycles are the direct objects here because they are receiving direct response. An indirect object is the noun or pronoun for which the action is done. It answers the question to whom or for whom. There must be a direct object for an indirect object to be placed in a sentence. So, in indirect object what happens? The action is done and it answers the questions to whom or for whom. जब भी आपको confusion है आप ये question पूछिए. For example, I sent some sweets to whom? To Shalini. Harsh repairs bicycles. For whom? For the neighborhood children. So you get the answer to this question and you can differentiate between these two types of objects. Let's see what are the important rules to follow ताकि हम कोई भी mistake ना करें. Rule 1. If the indirect object comes first in a sentence, then there is no preposition. For example, they gave Ashok a new car. Mrs. Sharma offered the girls a cake. So important thing is, if it comes first, the object comes first, then no preposition. Rule number 2. If the indirect object comes second or later, then a preposition must be used. So this is the opposite of rule number 1, must, because if it comes second or later. Let's read the examples. They gave a new car to Ashok. Mrs. Sharma offered a cake to the girls. Children, यहाँ preposition क्या है? You're right, to. So we have used a preposition here. It's a must. Rule number 3. If the direct object is a pronoun such as it or this, then it comes first and uses a preposition. So it uses a preposition. It comes first. I bought it for my sister. Can you send it to him? Let's underline the prepositions. For is the preposition here and to is the preposition here. So children, do revise all these new concepts, the differences between one type from the other, revise the rules and attempt the book exercises.